I'm excited to be at the Bricktown Rotary because when I was a kid, I used to come down here with my dad. This is about 1982, 84. And we used to come to this restaurant Supply. I think it's moved now, but it used to be around here somewhere. And it was like a ghost town. I mean, it reminded me of Gunsmoke. I was waiting for Matt Dillon to come riding out. You know, it was just really kind of drab, but I loved it because I was with my dad. So there's a lot of memories, and I just look around and I think, man, look how far this place has come. When I was a teenager, I was like, I'm leaving Oklahoma. Bricktown, you know, downtown's horrible. But now I look at it, I'm like, man, this is a great, great place to be. And I just really love it. And I appreciate all that the Rotary's doing in the community. So when I was down there with my dad, he owned a restaurant. He owned it for 40 years, just sold it, let it go, retired about a year and a half ago. And I spent more time down at that restaurant than I did at home. I was down there all the time, all the way from, I think when I was in a high chair, all the way up until just recently. I would still go down there and work on Father's Day just to be with him, and it was just kind of cool. But there was some downside to that too. Part of going to a place all day that serves pizza and fried chicken on a buffet does some bad things to kids, like some serious weight problems. And so I had a lot of weight problems growing up. And when I was 10 or 12, my dad had this thing about hiring high school kids to run the place. And he thought it was like his mission to help the kids through life by hiring them and then mentoring them that way, which is great. But in Del City, some of the kids were not the best, the best there was out there. And they picked on me a lot, especially because of my weight. I remember one time, I loved helping out at the restaurant, and I would just, whatever I could do, I'd get, wash the walls, bust the tables, wash the dishes. My dad would pay me with quarters. I'd go play video games. It was awesome to me. I didn't know anything about minimum wage. So I was up there helping one night, and my dad had left to put up the deposit, and I was just scrubbing away, and all of a sudden, boom, right in my back. Big cube of ice, the cubes with the sharp edges, the sharp corners, right in the back. And we had the ice machine, it was right in the same room. And all these three kids were just lined up, pelting me with it, just like a machine gun. And all I could do was just kind of crouch down and just take it. And they were laughing at me, calling me names, Porky. I used to wear this Oklahoma basketball shirt. Billy Tubbs was the coach, I don't know if you remember. They used to call me Billy Blubs. And they would chase me around and call me Beef and all this stuff. And I tried to catch them and I couldn't do it. I mean, I was 10, 12, they were like 18. Not much I could do. And, over time that just would wear on me, and it happened for years, it happened that way. But there's always a couple of people in the restaurant, usually the older guys, and they're like, hey, don't worry about it. You just keep playing football and you're gonna become so big and strong that won't nobody mess with you one day. And so I remember that voice in my head, and as the years go on by, I start dealing with all that trauma, because it was trauma. You don't realize it at the time, but that's trauma. And so as I get into high school, I start covering that trauma up, all these scars of being called all these names for all these years, day after day after day. Hit with dough, hit with ice, slapped with the pizza sauce. I mean, these guys were mean. And, I had self-confidence issues as a result. So I covered myself up, hanging out with, gang members, putting on clothes to look scary. I played music out in my car the loud as I could because I wanted people to be afraid of me, because I was insecure because of all that trauma. And, through the years, I eventually went to college, but I never dealt with that trauma. I just kept covering it up, right? So I got to college, first semester, 4 Fs. Second semester, 3 Fs and a W. Don't know how I got to the office to get that withdrawal, but I did it. That was my one positive experience out of that. And then by the spring, after it was over, I dropped out. I was done. Moved back home, moved into a place with my parents, or not my parents, my best friend. We just partied every night. And so that went on for about a year. And then after a year, I'm sitting there in a room, blank walls, nothing in the fridge, getting evicted, trying to figure out where I'm going to live. And I moved in with some friends, and I just hopped couch to couch to couch for a little while. And I mean a little, I couldn't take it. I mean, it was like a month. And then I went crawling back to my parents, who are great and let me back in. It was like the prodigal son story. It really was. I was coming back with nothing. I was, drinking too much, partying too much, had no money, was broke, no job, nothing. And then I would go to see my brother's high school football games. And every time I would go, I would see all these people because it was the same high school. And I would see my coaches, my teachers, some old friends, and they'd look at me like, what happened to you? You had all this stuff going for you. What happened? And then the last piece was I was sitting in the stands. My dad was behind me, and I heard somebody say, hey, what's he doing? And he said, nothing. He's a bum. And I don't know what happened, but the switch flipped at that point. And I decided that's not who I was going to be. That I was going to come back no matter what and fix my life and be who I was supposed to be. So I went back to school. I went to Rose State College, fixed my grades. I went to the YMCA, I started working out, got back in shape, quit smoking, quit drinking, quit hanging out with the other people that were putting this stuff in my head. And then 1 year from the day that I had crawled back home, I was standing on the football field at Oklahoma, back on the field. And I learned lots of stuff through that whole experience because I had dug such a huge hole in my life. But in the end, I don't think I would change anything because I learned so much from it. And one of the first things is that you have to do what others won't do. When I was making that comeback, I moved in an apartment. People thought I was weird because I moved in an apartment. I wouldn't talk to nobody. I didn't get a phone. I didn't have nothing. All I did was work, go to school, and go to the gym. That's it. No girls, nothing. My friends thought I was crazy because I wouldn't go out. I would see my friends driving to the club when I was running out on Southeast 44th Street at midnight in the snow. And I just kept thinking, I'm doing what he ain't doing. And I'm not going to be like him. And then the second thing I think I had to do, there were so many things, but going back to those voices in your head. All that negativity, yet I still remember the one guy that said, they're going to make you so big and strong that won't nobody mess with you. And that's kind of, it wasn't the words necessarily, but he created a vision. He created a vision here that I couldn't see, a light that I couldn't create for myself. And sometimes that's all you need. One word of encouragement during a moment of self-doubt is worth hours of applause after success. And that's what I think about when I think about the Rotary and all the community service work that we do. We are that word of encouragement to the community out here that doesn't have it. They need your light. And you may not see the seeds that you're planting right now. You may never see them. The guy that told me that stuff, he died before he ever saw what I did. Had a heart attack. But when you're planting those seeds, that's what you got to understand, is you're planting seeds against those voices that they're hearing. They're hearing those voices, and you're offering one word of encouragement could be the thing that changes everything for them. A few years later, after going back to college, I was back home after going through all that, and I was home for the summer. And I was at the YMCA, and I just finished lifting weights, preparing for the season. I'm walking by the gym. I'm like, I'm gonna play some basketball. Turned into the doorway, and under the goal was that guy that hit me with the ice. And I was like, this can't be happening. But here's what I want you to know. Because I had dealt with those inner voices in me, I could now deal with that outside voice. Because I dealt with the inner bully that was telling me I wasn't any good, that I was fat, that I was no good, I couldn't do anything. I could now deal with him. And sometimes that stuff doesn't line up time-wise, right? If you deal with something inside, you may not see it for years down the road. I didn't see it. I wouldn't have been standing in that gym had I not dealt with that inner voice. So I walked down the court, all 6'4", 320 pounds, offensive lineman of the year, all conference. And I walked right up to him and asked him to play. And every shot I took, he hit the floor. Every shot he took, he hit the floor. I don't know if that's the right response, but it felt right at the time. And as he was limping off, I said, thanks for the game, appreciate it. And he was like, I felt just better at that point because I had conquered the enemy within. And if the enemy within is conquered, there is no one outside that can stop us. Conquer your inner voices. If you have self-doubt, if you hear yourself saying you can't do something or something can't be done, you got to speak out loud. There were times I woke up in my apartment when I was coming back, I had to say it out loud because I was hearing the voices so loud saying I couldn't do it. Or why are you doing it? You're going to Rose State? You really think you're going to be on Owen Field here next year? Coaches won't even talk to you? I had to stalk them down. That's maybe where I got my lobbying skills. Joke. But I had to stalk them down. And I stalked Merv Johnson, the offensive line coach, down. I found him at Lloyd Noble Center during the basketball game. The thing is, we've all been through those things, and you have to overcome the self-doubt to become what these people need for us. We're once encouraged, and now we are encouraged. And we've got to bring that out to our community. And what I want to challenge you with is, if you think a goal is too big, I challenge you to say it's not too big. Go get it. I work with Pivot. We help homeless teenagers. We were at a board meeting, they were like, what's it look like in 5 years? What's it look like in 10 years? We were trying to plan, right? And everybody's like, all right, we're going to reduce this. I was like, we're going to eliminate homelessness for teenagers in 10 years. It's gone. And everybody looked at me like I was kind of crazy, but I'm like, you got to think big. Who gets inspired by little goals? Think big. And when you hear the voices that say you can't do it, jump out there and get it done. I didn't meet my biological dad until I was in 8th grade. And I remember I was standing in the restaurant. My cousin from Ohio's down. He comes up to me and is like, you know, he just busts out with it. That's not your real dad. You know that, right? I was like, what? Blew my mind, blew my world. And I never really realized how, a big a deal it was because my stepdad is awesome. I mean, he raised me from my first memory. My first memories, way back. I used to ride around with him before he owned the restaurant. When I was like 2 years old, I just barely remember it. I can still smell the chicken in the dough, I think. But we would deliver pizza supplies to all the restaurants at Shakey's. And that's how far back it goes, but there's something it does to a man, a boy, who doesn't know their dad. They're going to act out, even if they had a great stepdad. I know that for a fact. And I think you see how many people are living in single moms, and the mom's having to raise the kids because the dad's off, not participating in life, and it makes a big difference. My goal is to get on the path and let faith kind of lead me where I'm going, but I take big leaps, right? So it's not, I don't see that far down the road anymore. I used to be able to do that. I'm not able to see where I'm going. Right now I'm on this path, which was not here a year ago. Me standing up here talking to you was not here. Or having all these mentor things going on with the kids. I didn't see it. I went back and explored, why do I like this? Who am I? I had to go back and find my why. Why, experience. If you go back and look at your experiences, that's going to tell you the good times. Think about at work, when was a great time? When was a bad time? When I was in school, when was a good time? When I go back, I think about Huggins and all those coaches that used to inspire me. And I'd look at like the movies I watched, Rocky. I don't know why I like that stuff, but for some reason I like encouraging people. And I look back, I can find experience after experience after experience of people encouraging me, pouring into me, and then I want to go out and encourage other people. I want to be the light for the people that can't shine yet. Wherever level I'm at, take it to the next level. I start speaking in my bedroom to my kids and recording it, and then going back looking at the game film. That's what it is. It's game film, just taking this stuff and then going, okay, now I'm going to take it to a classroom. Now I'm going to take it to a business, whatever it takes. Goal is to just keep getting better. Because when I get better, everyone else gets better that I come in contact with. That's my philosophy.